Hey everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. You ready to level up your communication skills?
hmm
Today we're going deep on some seriously powerful communication tips from a true pro, Jefferson Fisher. He's a trial lawyer, so he knows how to make words really hit home.
Mm.
And we've got his interview with Mel Robbins for this one. It is packed with actionable advice you can use right away to improve your conversations. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if it's at work with your family or even just those tricky social situations.
And you know what I think is really interesting? It's not just theory. He gives you tools.
Yeah.
He even films these videos in his car. Talk about maximizing your time.
Right. You ready for some serious aha moments because we're unpacking gold here.
Hmm.
His core belief is that what you say, is who you are. Oh, right. It makes you really think about the impact of your words.
Oh, for sure. It highlights how our words don't just shape how other people see us, but our own self-perception as well. It's a great reminder to choose your words carefully. They reflect our values and the kind of person we want to be.
Okay, so let's get into it. One of the things that really struck me was how much he emphasized honesty, even in tough conversations. He argues that avoiding the truth can actually cause more harm than just being direct.
He really challenges that idea of tiptoeing around sensitive topics to protect people's feelings. He says that being direct, while still being respectful, shows more faith in the other person's ability to handle the truth.
And it avoids all that awkward hinting and implying, which just makes things more confusing and can even lead to hurt feelings in the long run. I remember Mel Robbins sharing a story about how she accidentally said something at dinner that upset her husband. And when he later asked her, "Why did you say that?" she immediately got defensive. It's so easy to get caught in that trap.
Yeah, it is. And Fisher has this awesome reframing technique for exactly those situations. Instead of focusing on the why, which usually makes people defensive, shift to what. So instead of asking, why did you say that, ask, what did you hear? Changes the whole dynamic.
It's like you're inviting the other person to share their view and understand how they saw what was said. It changes a potential argument into working together to clear up any misunderstandings. Such a powerful shift.
It is. And it fits right in with his idea that directness can be kind. It's about respecting someone enough to be honest with them, even when it's hard. He even suggests adding something like, I'm telling you this because I know you can handle it, before you give tough feedback.
Wow, total game changer. It shows them that you believe in their strength and resilience, and it gives them the chance to step up.
Yeah,
It's like that saying, treat people as if they were what they ought to be, and you help them to become what they're capable of being.
exactly. Now, about handling those tricky conversations, Fisher has an interesting take on arguments. Most of us go into them wanting to win, which automatically sets us up for a fight.
Oh, I am so guilty of that.
Yeah,
It's like we forget that the goal should be to understand each other and find a solution, not proving who's right or wrong.
right. And that's where his analogy of the knot comes in. He says we should see arguments not as battles to be won, but as tangled knots that we need to untangle together.
I love that. Changes everything, doesn't it? Instead of seeing the other person as an opponent, you're suddenly on the same side working together to untie this messy knot.
It's brilliant for shifting the energy from fighting to working together. And talking about shifting energy, Fisher has a surprisingly effective tactic for when people say belittling or disrespectful things. Make them repeat it.
Wait, really? I would never thought of that. But I can see how it would work.
Think about it. When someone makes a snide remark or tries to put you down, they often just want to see you get flustered. But if you simply ask them to repeat what they said, it totally throws them off.
It's like holding up a mirror to them and making them really own what they just said.
Mm.
I bet it takes all the fun out of it for them.
Yeah.
It reminds me of how Mel Robbins realized some of the things she was saying to her daughter, even though she meant well, might have actually seemed belittling to her.
Yeah, good point. Even words said with good intentions can have unintended consequences. It's always good to double check that our message is being received the way we meant it.
For sure. Speaking of checking in, Fisher talks about this technique called framing a conversation. It's all about setting clear expectations right from the start.
Oh, yeah. It's so simple, but so powerful. He says to start by clearly stating what you want to talk about and how you want the conversation to end. Do you want to feel understood, make a decision, or just clear up a misunderstanding?
It's like you're setting an agenda for the talk, which helps to keep everyone focused and avoids those frustrating situations where you go round and round and get nowhere. And it's super helpful when things are already tense.
Absolutely. It's about getting everyone on the same page about the purpose and desired outcome of the conversation. It's like saying, okay, let's lay it all out and agree on the rules before we start. It helps to have that structure. Makes tough conversations a bit less scary. Now, remember how we talked about making someone repeat a belittling comment? Well, Fisher has a similar approach when you're dealing with straight-up disrespect, silence.
Oh, yeah, the power of silence. I learned that sometimes the best way to respond is to not say anything at all, especially when you're dealing with someone who's trying to get a rise out of you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That pause can be so powerful, it stops their negativity and gives you a chance to get back in control. It's like hitting the pause button on their behavior.
and it keeps you from just reacting without thinking, which is usually what they want. Instead of getting pulled into their drama, you create space to be calm and think things through.
And in that space, you can choose how you want to respond. Instead of just reacting, Fisher suggests following up that silence with a clear statement that sets your boundaries, like, that's below my standard for a response.
It's like saying, I see what you're doing, and I'm not playing.
Sure.
It's such a powerful way to shut down negativity without stooping to their level.
It reminds me of a story Mel Robbins told about a friend who had to set a hard boundary with her own mom, who was always being disrespectful. It took a lot of courage, but she finally said, I'm not putting up with this anymore. And guess what? It worked. Her mom finally realized she needed to change if she wanted to have a relationship with her daughter.
It's amazing how just changing the way you communicate can have such a big impact. It's like taking back your power and choosing to be in the world on your own terms.
Exactly. And speaking of engaging with the world, let's talk about those times when criticism or conflict just can't be avoided. Fisher has this brilliant technique for those rough waters and separate the person from the problem.
It's like they say, hate the sin, love the sinner. Address the issue without attacking the person.
Right. Take the personal stuff out of the language. For example, instead of saying your proposal was terrible, try saying the proposal could use some more research. It shifts the focus from blame to problem solving.
It's like you're asking them to work with you to find a solution instead of making them feel attacked.
I love that. It reminds me of those diagrams with two circles, one for you and one for the other person. And there's this overlapping part in the middle. That's the problem you're both trying to solve.
Great analogy. It shows how important teamwork and sharing responsibility is. It's like saying, hey, we're in this together, let's figure it out.
And speaking of teamwork, Fisher uses another powerful visual. Imagine you're sitting next to the other person, tackling the problem together, like teammates, not opponents.
It's like you're both looking in the same direction, at the problem, instead of at each other, ready to fight. Such a simple change in perspective. But it can change everything.
Now let's talk about something that can be a real struggle for some people, especially introverts or those who deal with social anxiety, communicating with confidence.
Oh, been there. Sometimes just the thought of having to speak up or start a conversation can be totally paralyzing.
I know. But Fisher has some great tips for getting over those fears. His first one is so simple, it's brilliant. Let your breath be the first word you speak.
Wait, really? Just breathing, that's it.
Sounds simple, but it really works. Taking a conscious breath before you speak centers you, calms your nerves, and makes you feel more intentional.
It's like grounding yourself and getting your energy together before you jump into the conversation.
Yeah.
Like that saying, take a deep breath and count to 10 before you say anything you'll regret.
Exactly. And instead of feeling like you have to be the life of the party or impress everyone, Fisher says to focus on having one or two really good conversations with people you genuinely connect with.
I love that. It takes the pressure off, right? Instead of trying to talk to everyone and make small talk, you can put your energy into those connections that matter, quality over quantity.
Absolutely. And speaking of quality, Fisher says we should upgrade how we handle those everyday interactions. Even something as basic as responding to, how are you?
Oh yeah, that classic question. We all just say, fine, how are you? Without even thinking.
Exactly. But Fisher says to see it as a chance to share your positive outlook and set a good tone for the conversation. Instead of dwelling on the past or complaining, try talking about something you're looking forward to or something good in your life.
I like that. It's like choosing to focus on the good stuff. It's a small change in how you think, but it can really affect your mood and energy.
And if you're not comfortable sharing personal stuff, Fisher says to use weather analogies to express how you feel without giving too much away.
Yeah, weather analogies.
Right.
That's interesting. So instead of saying, I'm having a terrible day, I could say, it's feeling a bit stormy for me today.
Exactly. It's a fun way to be honest without oversharing and dumping info on the other person that they might not be ready for.
It's like saying, hey, I'm not feeling great, but I'm not going to rain on your parade.
And for those who struggle to start conversations, Fisher says to ask about the future. Instead of the usual, how are you? Try something like, what are you excited about today? Or, what are you looking forward to this week?
Ooh, I like that. Such a positive and engaging way to start a conversation. It makes the other person share something hopeful and optimistic. Sets a really good tone for the whole interaction. It's like opening a door to possibility and excitement.
It's like saying, let's focus on the good things to come. And who couldn't use a little more of that? Yeah, it's like we're encouraging each other to dream big and see a brighter future. And that leads us to one of Fisher's most interesting ideas, defining our conversational values and conversational goals.
Oh, I was fascinated by that. It's like having your own personal communication guide, right? A set of rules that shape how you talk to the world.
Exactly. It's about being intentional and making sure your communication matches the kind of person you want to be and the impact you want to have. So what are some of those values that could guide our conversations?
For me, it'd be things like kindness, respect, honesty, empathy, and authenticity. It's about making a space where people feel safe to share their thoughts and feelings without being judged.
Those are great values to aim for. And once you've figured out your conversational values, Fisher suggests setting conversational goals for each time you talk to someone. What do you want to achieve in this conversation? Build a connection. Work through a conflict. Inspire someone to take action. Or just listen.
It's like having a plan for the conversation, right? You know where you're going, and it helps you avoid those times when you just talk in circles and get nowhere.
Exactly. It makes your communication focused and purposeful.
So for our listeners who are ready to actually use all this great advice, where should they start?
Fisher says to start with a simple question. Who do my words say that I am? It's about taking a moment to think about how your communication matches up with your values and what you want to achieve.
It's a powerful question to ask yourself. And you can even ask the people closest to you for feedback. How do my words make you feel? Do I sound kind, respectful, and confident? Getting that feedback can be so helpful for figuring out what you can improve. It's like looking in a mirror and seeing how your words are reflected back to you. And once you understand your communication style and how it affects others, you can start setting those conversational goals for each interaction.
Exactly. It's about being more aware and deliberate when you communicate. Remember, words are powerful. They can lift people up, inspire and heal, or they can hurt, discourage, and divide.
This deep dive into Jefferson Fisher's communication tips has been amazing. It's incredible how just a few small changes in how you think and what you say can make such a big difference.
It's all about being intentional, authentic, and respectful when you communicate. And when you do that, you can transform your relationships, your career, and even how you see yourself.
So to our listeners, as you go about your day, remember this. You have the power to change the way you communicate. And when you do that, you change how the world sees you. Choose your words carefully. Speak with purpose, and let your communication show the best version of yourself.
It's a journey of learning and growing, and it all starts with the next word you choose to say.